Welcome back to the Hard4Games channel, everybody. I'm your host, Tony, and today we have the Preservation Project. For those of you that don't know, because, well, the name Preservation Project isn't particularly descriptive, it is a mod of Super Mario 64 that aims to recreate the 1995 Space World demo faithfully and accurately. Now, I had originally covered a demo of this back over 2 years ago in April of 2020, and at that point, the project was already a couple years old. So this is a really long time in coming mod that I am glad has finally been released, albeit not quite to the creator's own standards. This is sort of a self-critique that they have on their own project, but before we get into any of that, just know this is a wonderful and beautiful mod that is very much worth your time, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Now, it's important to keep in mind that back in 1995, during the development and birth era of the Nintendo 64, Super Mario 64 felt like and looked like a very different game. Yes, of course, there were many similarities, but there were also numerous differences between the different beta versions and the retail version that we ultimately got. What I'm showcasing here are some earlier images and screenshots of previous to retail versions that, of course, this mod is based off of. So keep that all in mind when you see the gameplay itself. Now here we are in the castle courtyard, and as you're going to see, there are just so many differences here, and the differences are going to keep piling up more and more as we enter new areas. So I'm not going to cover them all, but I will mention a few here just to get the ball rolling. As you can probably see, the HUD, for example, is much more cartoony. It's more 16-bit. It's more reminiscent of Super Mario World than it is Mario 64. And of course, the design of the castle is different. You have a different clock emblem thing right in the middle there. You don't have a door in the moat to get into the basement of the castle. Just little differences, again, here, there, everywhere. Another thing that's interesting and of note is that this is supposed to be a sandbox to learn the controls, but it was a little bit more frustrating in the earlier builds because, as you can see, you can't get up this incline on this side. On the other side, there's a fence, which doesn't exist in the retail version. You're more stuck in this area. The sections are more segregated off versus the retail version, which just sort of had some layout quality of life improvements. Mechanically, a lot of things are similar. So, for example, we have the side flipping jump here, which comes in very handy. We have our triple jump, which of course has a spin per the beta version instead of that final flipping jump. But none of the Z-based jumps are here. So, for example, I press Z right now, I'm trying to jump and do a backflip, doesn't exist. And the long jump utilizing the Z button also does not exist. So your moveset here is more limited. Another oddity is that you take fall damage really easily in this version, but you also have regenerating health, so it's kind of a little bit of a give and take there. But one thing I definitely want to show you, and that makes a big difference, is the slide. There is so much slip here with Mario. And funny thing is, in the previous version that I demoed 2 years ago, there was even more, but they tweaked it to be a little bit more accurate. But even with that accuracy, as you can see here, Mario is just slipping and sliding and hard to get a pinpoint accuracy with. I'm just showing you guys footage of me making a fool out of myself because it's funny, but also because it's kind of hard to control. But it makes you realize why certain aspects of the game exist. So for example, that jump, I'm pretty sure this jump exists to help combat the slip. But even after the slip was reduced, they kept the jump. At least that's my unsubstantiated theory. Another theory I have is this area right here. In the retail version of the game, it's really much more fleshed out. In the beta version, it isn't. My guess is that in the beta version, this whole area exists, including the cannon, to just have a place to slip down to and then get back up from. Right? shoot up the cannon, which by the way doesn't have crosshairs, onto the pole, see this derpy looking guy, and get back up to the main level. Now of course, I'm assuming, again, unsubstantiated, totally a guess here, that once they reduced the slip a little bit, they didn't really need to have just a safety net of an area. They could actually flesh that area out into something a little bit more interesting. Aesthetically, there is just so much different. It is night and day. No pun intended with the little star and moon there. But yeah, this is the main area of the castle, and it just looks so much different in the earlier build. Also, being a recreation of a demo, a Space World demo, you can enter any room just so long as it exists in the mod. It's not restricted or locked off by the number of stars you have. I'm very happy to see the original Derpy Penguin here as well. The rooms to enter the levels are much more simplistic, both in terms of the geometry, but also the limited number of textures that are utilized. And of course, the levels themselves, as you can see, are minimized. There are areas that exist in the retail version of the game that don't exist here, and secret areas. Of course, in the retail version of the game, if you jump into this volcano, there's a secret substage. But in this version, there isn't. There's nothing but death and lava, which of course makes sense because it's a volcano, but I tried anyways. Now, another nice feature for those that are incredibly lazy and don't want to walk 10 feet to the next level is a level select. You can just press start and jump to any level you want to that is available, including the boss level. By the way, in the boss level, all you have to do is throw Bowser into one bomb and you beat him. Now, unfortunately, I do have to reveal that this version does not have the deep lore. There is no El is real monument statue thing in the courtyard here. I am so sorry. Now, I mentioned earlier that the creators were not entirely happy with this particular mod. And the reason being is because it has some inaccuracies. So for example, this sub-area utilizes the final retail builds level model, and there are also some animations that are somewhat inaccurate. However, although I do understand and realize that these issues are important to the creators, I do feel that most laypeople playing this game would not notice the difference and not really realize that there are quote-unquote inaccuracies or mistakes in this particular mod. Also, you have to keep in mind that this has been worked on for years and years, and really the last year-ish of development has been kind of production hell, kind of limbo-ish for them. There have been numerous times where I've been contacted and told that there might be a playable build in a month. Then 3 months would go by, and then I would inquire, and then it would be, okay, well, maybe 1 or 2 more months, and then 3 or 4 months would go by. And, you know, it would kind of keep going on and on like that. I think the creators eventually realized that instead of letting their project become vaporware, it was more important to get a version out there to showcase their hard work and let people actually enjoy it, which enjoy it I am. This is an excellent and wonderful mod. That said, they also made it open source, so if anybody wants to go in and correct or adjust anything, they can. That is an option, and that may or may not happen, but regardless, again, I think it was the right decision to release as is versus not releasing at all. So that is it for today, everybody, and I gotta say, I'm just so happy that this finally gelled into an actual thing, that this exists, and that you can play it. Big thank you to everyone that worked on this. You truly transported me back to 1995 and gave me a very unique experience that I honestly didn't expect, both in terms of how the levels were laid out and also the mechanics of how Mario played. It was truly kind of a bizarro version of Mario 64 that we never received. And if you'd like to play this at home, I'm gonna go ahead and put links in the description below so you can check it out. Aside from that, thank you all, the audience, for watching, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and I hope to see you next time.